There'll be winners and losers, barn burners and snoozers this week in the SEC.
Well, folks, the conference didn't exactly shine in Week 1, and with a 6-6 record against non-conference foes, the SEC has about as much credibility as a Ryan Lochte police statement. But it's a long season, and it's going to get better in Week 2. Jacksonville State at LSU. Week 1 proved tough for LSU. Their offense was downright offensive, and they finished the game by showing their bootay in Green Bay. But this week, the Purple People Eaters are back in Bayou country, and this game's gonna stink like a shrimp boat bathroom. In a snoozer, LSU. Nicholls State at Georgia. Kirby Smart is as happy as a tick on a bulldog after getting a win in Week 1. And this week, his wrinkly-faced slobberhounds anxiously await the arrival of the Nicholls State Colonels. It'll be the season opener for the Colonels, but after this one, they may get demoted to privates. In a snoozer, Georgia. Prairie View A&M at Texas A&M. Kevin Sumlin's Aggies proved tougher than a $2 steak against UCLA, and those Panthers from Prairie View won't put up half as much of a fight. You only need a partial ticket for this one because you probably won't be staying past halftime. In a snoozer, Texas A&M. MTSU at Vanderbilt. Last week, Vandy was up 10 points when Derek Mason trotted out a different quarterback. But you can't blame Mason. He was just following that old coaching adage. If it ain't broke, break the hell out of it. Or something like that. This week, we'll see if he learned his lesson. But don't hold your breath. In a barn burner, MTSU. Western Kentucky at Alabama. Western Kentucky looked good in Week 1 as their only struggle was when they tried to take the field. But it's a different story this week as they face the mighty Tusks from Tuscaloosa. Yes, the Crimson Tide could scare the crap out of a septic tank, and this one's going to get nasty in a hurry. In a snoozer, Alabama. Arkansas at TCU. After a close one against Louisiana Tech, Brett Bielema is undefeated on the season. But after this week's matchup with the purple-headed horny toads of TCU, the only place Bielema will keep his undefeated record is on the playground seesaw. In a barn burner, TCU. Wofford at Ole Miss. Last week, Hugh Freeze and company got out to a good start thanks to an offense that was fancier than Laramie Tunsil's gas mask. But round about halftime, the Rebels up and decided to secede from competition. This week, they'll face those snarling Wofford Terriers. Ole Miss may take a few nips to the ankle, but that's nothing a little Bactine won't fix. In a snoozer, Ole Miss. Eastern Michigan at Missouri. After a poor showing against West Virginia, Barry Odom's Tigers are about as frustrated as a midget with a yo-yo. But things should start looking up this weekend when the Eagles of Eastern Michigan fly into Columbia. For Barry's sake, let's hope they do. In a barn burner, Missouri. South Carolina at Mississippi State. Last week it was a tale of 2 field goals. A long one saved the day for the Gamecocks, and a botched one from 28 yards made Dan Mullen madder than a bulldog chewing bumblebees. This week they'll face off in Starkville, and when it's over, Will Muschamp will be the one doing the frowning. In a barn burner, Mississippi State. Arkansas State at Auburn. Last week, Coach Malzahn held open auditions for quarterback and tried 3 different signal callers in the loss to Clemson. But that's the kind of identity crisis you would expect from a team with 2 nicknames. Gus may continue the trend this week against the Red Wolves, but he'll still leave Jordan Hare a happy man. In a snoozer, Auburn. Kentucky at Florida. The feeble felines from Kentucky travel south to take on the lockjawed lizards in Gainesville. And for the Wildcats, that ought to be about as much fun as going skinny dipping with snapping turtles. Let's just hope the water is cold enough to keep Mark Stoops from suffering a life-changing injury. In a snoozer, Florida. Tennessee versus Virginia Tech. Before the battle at Bristol, the Vols had to dodge a calamity in K-Town, and it was almost an early Christmas for Appalachian State. They tried to put a big lump of coal in that big orange stocking, but somehow Butch Jones managed to turn it into a diamond. This week, his coonskin cap-wearing riflemen take aim at the Gobblers from Virginia Tech, and they'll have to shoot straight to keep their dream season alive. In a barn burner, Tennessee. Well, friends, that about sums it up. Let's hope our favorite conference gets back on track in Week 2, and we'll see you in 7 days.
From way down Florida up to Kentucky, Texas to Tennessee. There'll be winners and losers, barn burners and snoozers this week in the SEC.